Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've talked about Wonder Woman in the past before, but this is a mail that asks the question that, to be honest, I've thought too with the character. Now, before I get into that mail, I should say that I like Wonder Woman as a character. I think she's strong. I think that there's a lot of really cool things that you can do with her. What I particularly like about her is something that they seem to forget about on a regular basis. And I don't quite understand why. But it's that she's got this whole Greek mythology behind her, and it feels like they dip in and out of caring about that. To me, that's pretty major storytelling capabilities about her, kind of halfway between human and god. I mean, basically, kind of demigod status, and just all the things you can do. And it's like the comics seem to go all in on it and make it a very kind of mythology heavy series at times, and then we'll kind of drift away and do nothing with it. And it feels like there's a middle ground in there that they just never quite seem to achieve in a really reasonable way with Diana. Several of you reading the comics, by the way, you may completely disagree with that take, particularly if some of your favorite runs are from one era or the other. Maybe it works out, but it just feels like they can't quite, it feels like the writers struggle with, like, what are we going to do with this character? I feel the same thing about, quite frankly, a number of DC characters. I think John Stewart, Green Lantern, I think they wander in and out of, are we supposed to make him a military guy or a soldier or not? And they will, and then they'll forget about it for a while, and then they will, and they'll forget about it. Same thing with the Legion of Superheroes, generally as a concept. DC seems really, mixed on what are we supposed to do about this. That's the challenge I see with Wonder Woman, and quite frankly, a lot of their characters, but I definitely see that show up with Wonder Woman. And that's not entirely the purpose of this mail I get into in this video, but I think it is related because the general theme here is Wonder Woman is a core part of DC's lineup. She is part of the Trinity. She's a major recognizable hero. She's probably, if I'm being fair about it, I say has the most successful movie coming out of the DC lineup. I think Wonder Woman's film actually worked, or at least people seem to like it. And I think other characters have certainly struggled in that arena. But anyway, I'm a big fan of Wonder Woman, so let's get to this mail. It says, "Hey Perch, curious your thoughts on Wonder Woman. Right now, I'm reading the Tom King government operative Wonder Woman gets framed story, and I just have to keep asking myself, why is this story happening? It seems ludicrous. It seems like Tom King wanted to write a story around government corruption and decided this would be a pitch for Wonder Woman. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Just a little over 2 years ago, Scott Snyder set Wonder Woman up to be the galaxy's hero, somebody who inspires literally all of reality through the end of death metal. Are you telling me that less than 2 years, I think it's more than 2 years, it was more earlier, now it's less. Less than 2 years earlier, that's what the letter writer says, folks. Less than 2 years later, a simple government con job causes the entire country to rebel against her as a hero. I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense. Also, doesn't it make Wonder Woman pretty pathetic that she is so easily defeated by a, quote, misinformation campaign, unquote? I know a lot of comic creators are thoroughly into this whole media, Russia influence in the elections, misinformation stuff, but give me a break. If you really cared about I completely agree with this last sentence, by the way. If you really cared about Wonder Woman as a character, you would give her the biggest threats, biggest opportunities, and biggest obstacles to overcome. Having Wonder Woman fight a government misinformation campaign only tells me you don't know what to do with her. What say you? Well, what says me is I agree. I do think it's wrong, and I do roll my eyes at this storyline, and quite frankly, and this goes back to why I started the video out the way I did. I do love Wonder Woman as a character, and I think there's so much you can do. If anything, Wonder Woman, I think, is a little overpowered in some ways. But look at the storytelling capabilities. She's been able to kind of live along with mankind, humankind, whatever. She's got some government ties. She's got this entire kind of Greek-ish mythology behind her that she's a part of. She's been into space. She's stood toe to toe with Darkseid. I mean, like, you could go down the line, and she's done it all, like all. Why in the world is it a struggle to find stories for her? That seems thoroughly bizarre. You have just tons and tons of capabilities of what you can do with this character, and it seems like it comes back to just cheap stories. I mean, look, first off, several of you, I think, are enjoying the Tom King run. But I agree with what the letter writer wrote. I think it feels at times like this run is kind of them sandwiching in what to do with the character. It's like, we want to do a government conspiracy. Why not? We'll do it with Wonder Woman. That's how it comes across. I think that, in terms of everything that could happen, why not do something more? And I do think that if government conspiracy, misinformation campaign turns people against you, is all that you got, it does kind of feel like you're out of ideas. That's how it comes across to me. It feels like we've kind of run the course of what we can think of with this character, but you can do some absolutely amazing long form arcs with her. I'm not a fan of this arc, and I'm also not a fan. And I think it's highly questionable. This is the kind of stuff where somebody really needs to sit down with editorial and ask them what the hell they're doing. Because you go from Wonder Woman is having this misinformation campaign that people have turned against her, all that kind of stuff going on in her title. And then you immediately segue into, Wonder Woman and the rest of the DC heroes are part of a misinformation campaign fueled by AI or whatever that Amanda Waller is doing. And it's like, really? Like that's, we're really going to do, a storyline in a single character, and then we're going to thrust in the middle of that storyline, because they're not done with it yet. Then we're going to thrust that character and her storyline into the bigger storyline. It feels like it's just thoroughly non-coordinated. And I think it would have been reasonably easy if you're really loving what Tom King was doing in Wonder Woman. You could have had Amanda Waller show up and say something like, what you're doing is working really well over here, Sergeant Steele and, the King of Lies or whatever, who is the weird shadowy villain of Wonder Woman. And so as a result, I think we're gonna go further with our plan. You were the trial balloon, and we wanted you to try it against Wonder Woman first, because we thought there's no way in the world people are ever gonna turn against Wonder Woman. I mean, she's Wonder Woman. So, for sure that was gonna, when we saw that was gonna work, we thought, okay, now we can screw over the rest of the DC heroes too. And I think that, maybe you could have done something like that, but they didn't. And so running one storyline, I've complained about this before, so I don't need to go into it again, but running one storyline immediately followed by the same storyline is, to me, just really sloppy writing. That's how I view it. So I can't believe, I just can't believe anyone through editorial thought that was a good idea to do. But, what do I know? But I think, getting back to the original question, I do wonder why this is, like, how did we get here a little bit for Wonder Woman, where to me, I'd be having her absolutely go toe to toe with Darkseid and the biggest ass threats in the world. I mean, actually, given her background and given the Greek mythology tie, you could have done a pretty interesting thing of, new gods are fighting old gods, and you've got this whole dynamic here going on with Darkseid and Highfather and all the rest of this stuff in the DC universe. And then in comes Wonder Woman, and she's like, bitch, I've got my own gods. And I mean, like, you could have had some really amazing stories. And while I'm sure some people would have complained about it, Wonder Woman being a badass and like throwing tanks around and being a quote unquote huge girl boss is on brand for that character. Nobody could wander in there and go, well, this is that look, they've gone woke with this character. No, it literally is her. You could have done some amazing stuff with her. So I don't get it. I don't get why Wonder Woman, much like I don't get why Cap, is so hard for a lot of writers to write. And I don't know why they won't just let themselves be free and go nuts with some of these storylines. Like let it be big. Let go ahead and have them be the biggest stories, the biggest moments, the most challenging things ever. Why not? That's what else have you got? I mean, it's comics, for God's sake. Go huge. And I do think if you're Scott Snyder and you set up Wonder Woman in this way following Death Metal, it does have to be confusing why here we are like 2 years later. It's like, I don't know. There was maybe an Amazon woman who beat up some drunken assholes in a bar. And so definitely all the Amazons need to be run out of the country. That's the kind of power of Fox News. They just turn everybody against you. Anyway. Thank you very much for the mail. I don't know. Am I crazy here? I think you could do a ton with Wonder Woman, and it is weird that nobody does because it feels like a layup to me. But anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for listening.